Well, hello there. This is Captain Jim reporting to you live from the USS. Well, it's not the US. I don't know what it is. The My Fantasy. And I am stocking the boat, putting what we're going to eat and drink on it right now. So don't come steal it in the night. I know what you're thinking. But it's Reed Allen and myself are going to navigate through the Galveston Ship Channel to the Gulf of Mexico, make a right turn southbound or westbound, southwest, southeastbound, I guess it is, and head down to Freeport, Texas. It's there's a marina there, got a 40-foot slip for the price of this 32-foot one. So, and it's 15 minutes from the house versus 90. So it's a closer, better deal. Give me more opportunity to work on the boat versus a 3-hour drive, three and a half hours normally with traffic to get here and get home. So this is what we're doing. I just bought water, Gatorade, a couple of beers, and we're going to head out. I believe it's either on next Wednesday or Thursday. He's off Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but I don't know what time he's going to get here Wednesday. He was talking about getting off at 11 and driving down here, and I don't think that's a good idea, because by the time he gets here, he'll be done and exhausted, and he'll probably, you know, when you're tired, that's when you get seasick. So I haven't told him this yet, but he needs to just plan on driving down Wednesday, and then we'll get everything we need. We'll come here and spend Wednesday night in the boat, and we'll take off Thursday morning before sunup. So that's probably going to be the best plan, I think, unless he strongly objects to that. I don't know. I don't care. Reed is the one. We used to go out to the oil rigs, and if you've read the book, if you were smart and invested your $9.97 on the book, you've seen the pictures. Him and I used to go out to the offshore rigs, and one time he tied up to the rig and we climbed up on the rig, and something, we were looking out to sea, you know, at the sea, it's all sea, no land inside anywhere. We were looking out towards the east, and something in the west just caught my eye, and I turned around and looked, and his boat had come untied from the rig and was drifting off. Well, fortunately, this was a very, very calm day in the Gulf of Mexico, and you don't get too many of those, but this was one of them, which is why we were out there. And he just looked at me and said, "I think you're more prepared for this than I am." So I just dove into the water and swam for the boat. Well, as I was approaching the boat, I had two thoughts. One was of a fish he had caught earlier, that something, while he was reeling it in, had completely bitten the ass end off of it. And it was like a third of a fish on his line by the time he got it in. And the other was, I was saying I sure hope he left the keys in the boat, because number one, if I swam back to the rig, there's no way back up on that rig. There's no ladder, nothing. And the legs are big, huge things covered with barnacles that would just cut the shit out of you. So as I climbed up over the back of his boat, the first thing I was looking for was the ignition, and the keys were in it. So crisis semi-averted, and I just started it up and motored back on over to the rig to collect Reed. And those are just some of the times we've had. We were out there one time, and it wasn't such a behaving day, and it was very rough. And this was back in our days of planing hull boats. We had boats that planed. They didn't handle well at slow speeds in sloshy water. And you always wanted it up in a plane, so we'd try to get the boat up in a plane, and we'd always get the living shit just kicked out of us on these bad days. And one time we were coming in, and he says, "What's that smell?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. It's the ship channel, you know. It stinks." And he goes, No, I smell oil." So he pulled the power back. He said, "Come up here and take the wheel." So I came up, took the wheel, and he went to the back and he pulled the engine cover open and he goes, "Shit, turn it off, turn it off." So I killed it. And what had happened was we had come off one of these waves so hard that when we hit the bottom of the swell, the engine broke off of the motor mount. And it settled down a little bit and it squashed his oil filter. And his oil filter was squirting oil out all over the place. Well, believe it or not, I to this day, I don't believe this, and I witnessed all this. I was a part of it. He was driving. I got in the back with a scoop, a Coke can we had cut the top off of, and I was scooping oil out of the bilge with salt water and everything, and pouring it back into the engine. And that's how we kept oil pressure and kept the engine running to get back in. And I thought for sure when we got done, this engine was going to be toast. That running this salt water through it and the oil and stuff was just going to kill it. And he rebuilt the mount, did a compression check on the engine, drained the oil, flushed it once, refilled it. Fucking never knew the difference. So that was a pretty good boat. And we got some stories about this old boat I bought. It was a 21-foot jet drive. But it wasn't a sporty jet drive. It was a big runabout with a jet drive on it. I often believe this was the boat they used in filming one of these James Bond movies where he jumped the boat over the cars and shit. I always was curious because it looked like a similar style if they had used this boat to do that, because you could see on the bottom where it had repairs from where he hit the cars. And my boat had those repairs on the bottom. But when we picked this thing up, the guy was a true salesman. He's going, "Oh, why do you think?" I said, "How does it handle out in the Gulf?" He goes, "Well, why do you think they call it a Gulf Stream?" So I bought this fucking $3,000. I mean, it was no big deal. It was for me at the time working at Metro. You know, I was still not minimum wage, but wasn't rich either. And bought this thing, and just as I was leaving, he goes, "Hey, why don't you take that by a mechanic and have that jet drive looked at?" I said, "Why? Is there something wrong with it?" He goes, No, it might be a good idea." And he walked over and he handed me $100 bill back. And he said, "Go get that jet drive looked at." I said, "Well, how do you get it out?" And he goes, "Oh, you just take off those 6 bolts and it slides right out." Yeah, right. I think Reed and I spent 3 days trying to get the jet drive pulled out of it. But first, let me back up. So, I got my new boat. I'm taking it straight to the water. Going to go launch it straight from picking it up from the storage facility he had it in. So I pull into a gas station and I undo the gas cap and I'm pumping gas into it, glug, 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 looking at the gas gauge, waiting for the gas gauge to move, and I think, well, shit, the gas gauge must be broken. Glug, 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 glug. Well, as I sat there, glug, glug, glugging away, probably 9 gallons into it, I discovered that the fuel fill line wasn't hooked to the gas line. And I was just pouring fuel down in the bilge of this boat, and it was full of gas. I had the key on so the gas gauges would work, and I was afraid to turn it off because I was afraid, you know, if I had a spark. So I just left the drain plug out of that boat, and I drove over the Kemah Bridge probably 10 times at a very slow rate of speed, draining the gas out of the bilge of this boat. And so then I took it home, and that's when the real work started. That's when we figured out a lot of shit that was wrong with it. But we got it taken care of. We pulled the pump out, and we found this guy. He worked out of his garage up in North Houston. We drove up there, and he says, yeah, just use that. He had a grocery basket, I guess he had stolen to put these things on and move them around. He said, take this basket, just go load it up on there. So we took the basket back to my car. We picked up that big old jet drive and threw it in there, and I was pushing it up to his garage, and I swear I was 50 feet away from him, and he's just looking at it, and he goes, oh, shit, how'd that happen? And I said, how did what happen? He said, bring it here, I'll show you. So he took a flashlight, and he stuck it up on the inside of the engine of the jet drive where the water intake, and you could see the light shining through the metal. He said at some point in time in this thing's life, it had a bearing go bad, and that jet impeller was eating its way through this casing. He says, now, the question is, how much of it got eaten through and how strong is it? He said, you could probably put this back on your boat and you'd never know the difference for 50 years. He said, or you could put it back on your boat, hit a good-sized wake and come down. He says, and that engine, just that jet drive, just depart the boat. And he goes, and you'll sink in about 20 seconds. So ended up forking out another $700 to get that fixed. And that's why that guy was so get the pump looked at, because he knew they had burned a bearing out, but they had replaced the bearing. And but he was a little uncomfortable with me going off and killing myself in his boat, I guess, or what used to be his boat. So anyway, but I tell you, we got that boat running. It had a Chevy 350 in it, and it drank so much fuel. I had to put a high-performance mechanical racing fuel pump on the engine because it just drank so much gas. You could put 36 gallons of gas in it and take it out water skiing, and it'd be empty 4 hours later. So needless to say, we didn't like paying marina prices for our fuel. So anyway, we used to take that boat, and the amazing thing about it was it had a little skag for a rudder that detached, and if you took that thing off, you could spin that boat on a dime. You could be hauling ass and just throw that wheel and hit the gas, and that boat would turn around backwards and still be going the way it was going. And it was pretty incredible that way. And you could run it through 6 inches of water if you were up in a plane. That's all it needed. So we didn't worry about depths or any of that shit. We just got it up and running and hauled ass. And one time I ingested a ski rope, and we got that undone. It was a great ski boat. It was an awesome ski boat. You could pull 2 slalom skiers out of the water. You didn't even know they were there. Just, and they were out of the water. And so it was some good stuff. And then I got up for work one morning. I was working at Southwest Airlines, and I was working in the charter room. So I was working at 8 to 5 or 8 to 4, whatever it was. And as I walked out to get in my car, something was just different, and I didn't realize it. So I walked back in the house, and I said, hey man, something's different. I can't figure it out. I walked back out front. I got in the car, and I was backing up. And I said, shit, the boat's gone. somebody stole it. So we called the cops, filed a police report, and then that was like on a Thursday. Well, Saturday we decided we were going to go out looking for it. We were going to go try to find it. Figured if they kept it local, it's going to be at one of the ramps. And I kid you not, the first ramp we pulled into, I see this long yellow tow strap that you use to winch the boat up, laid out across the parking lot. I went, what the hell is that? That looks like that strap. And my eyes followed it, and there was the trailer. And then I looked down towards the water, and there was the boat. It was beached. They didn't know the secret handshake with this boat, because it had a valve in the back you had to open and close. And the great thing about the jet boat is it didn't have a water pump. It just took water coming off that jet and forced it through the engine, and that cooled the engine. But there was a valve that you could switch so you could hook it up to a garden hose and do the same thing when you wanted to flush it out. Well, I left it in the water hose position, and these guys took it out and threw it in the water and cranked it up. They probably got 25 yards offshore before they smelled something burning and the engine overheated on them. So anyway, we got the boat back. Insurance paid. I mean, it looked like these guys had pissed all over the boat and thrown up on it. The windshield was covered in puke. I mean, these guys, somebody had a party. But after that, there was just something about it. Wasn't the same. Wasn't the same boat. It still had all the power it had. Still did everything it was doing before. It just wasn't the same boat. It was like they had tainted it or something. So I ended up donating it. Is what I did, because we were out, it was tax time and we owed some money. So, well, if we do a write-off, we'll break even. So I took it and I donated it, and about 2 months later I get a call from this guy, and he goes, hey, this is so-and-so, and I purchased your boat from such and such, and you're the previous owner, and I just have some questions for you. And I said, sir, where'd you get that boat? He goes, I got it from, I think it was Goodwill, the Goodwill auction. I said, do you know why I donated that boat to Goodwill? He goes, no, that's why I'm calling you. And I said, I donated that boat so I wouldn't have to answer any questions about it. You have a nice day. And I hung up. I never heard back from the guy. So that was the story of the Gulfstream. And it was a big 21-foot jet drive runabout. It was a kick-ass. Man, once we got it working, once we got the problem with the pump ironed out and the fuel situation and figured out the reason it kept stalling and dying on us was fuel starvation. So I just put a high dollar. I thought this, we put new electric pumps in it and everything, brand new ones, and nothing would do it. It would still get that hesitation like when your fuel filter's blocked, and so it's finally just threw in a high dollar, high performance racing fuel pump, and that fixed everything. And that thing would haul ass. That thing would do about 55 or 60, and it was really cool. So anyway, here I am sitting on my, what's what we were talking about? We had the planing haul boats out in the Gulf and getting our asses kicked. The sailboats don't have planing hauls, they have displacement hauls. And believe it or not, their speed is limited to the size of the hull. There's a formula. I don't know what it is. I used it once. The top speed on this boat is 6.7 miles an hour, based on the length of the water line. And that's why it's only got a 3-cylinder, 18-horse engine in it that pushes it along at 6 miles an hour, because it'll only do 6.7. And what happens is, if you go any faster than that, the hull tries to bury itself. It starts pushing down in the water. So It looks like we're going to have some really good weather, and that's one of the... We lost our navigator. The whole thing that set this wheel in motion vanished. And that was that we had a really good navigator that was fairly familiar with the Galveston Ship Channel. So we were going to use him, since I've never been through that in a boat from here. I don't mind, you know, you're in a little power boat, you can get out of anything's way. But the sailboat kind of concerns me a little, being slower and stuff. But I just don't think it's going to be that big of a deal now. But anyway, we had this guy that was going to go with us. Well, he bailed. He ain't going. And so now it's just down to Reed and I. And the only reason this trip's still on is the weather. The weather's supposed to be ideal for the next 10 solid days at least. So we're gonna hit this and try and do this and get the hell out of here. And get moved up to Freeport Marina. And when we get that done, then you'll be getting my live broadcast from the Freeport Marina. So you guys have a nice day. Let's see who's talking here. Jeremiah Gilmore is watching. Oh, we will have a camera. Oh, bring them on camera. How do you do this? Hang on, guys. Bring Kenny Johnson on camera. Alright. Kenny, are you on camera? This thing has new features all the time. Anyway, retirement's going good. Unbeknownst, or what's the word I'm looking for? Much to Joe Driscoll's prediction, I'm not bored. I'm not regretting it. And I'm actually, for the first time since I was a kid, having the time of my life. And we just lost a guy over at American Eagle. He was a dispatcher. He was 56 years old. 56. And he was in fairly decent health. He went to a doctor to get checked out. The doctor says, man, I got to send you to the hospital. Sent him to the hospital. They ran some tests, came back, told him he had 4 weeks to live. And he died. And that was at 56 years old. And I know everyone's not in a position to do it. But if you're in a position to go do what you finally want to start doing and do it the way you want to do it, then that's what you need to do, because you're just a doctor appointment away from being told you're dying. We all are. So it sucks. It really sucks. Keith Berry was a good guy. He was a truly good guy. He didn't deserve this. And shit, you know, it can happen to you. It can happen to any of us at any time. You can get killed walking home, shit. You know, or you could get maimed or paralyzed or come down with MS or anything. And you know what? There's only one time, and that's right now. And that's what you got to get on. So you guys have a good one. I'm just playing here with the phone. I'm gonna set it up outside. I bought a new mount so that we can do some live broadcast on the crossing itself. And if that happens, hasta la vista. It'll be a good time. Hopefully the waters won't be too choppy like Reed and I are used to, getting our asses kicked in his other boat. But anyway, you guys have a good one. Remember what I said, referencing Keith Berry, that there's no time like the present. And if you're in a position to do it and you ain't doing it, you're making a mistake. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one.